Hey guys, what's up? David here. I'm going to be putting away some of my clothes, but I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about data structures and algorithms because I think they're very interesting, and something that a lot of people don't talk about when they're thinking about these is how they're actually very related to the real world. I think that a lot of people, when they're learning data structures and algorithms, they're thinking about how to do something on the computer in an optimal amount of time or in an optimal way or whatever. But what I always thought was fun was to think about how it directly relates to the real world that we live in. For instance, one thing you classically learn in data structures and algorithms is sorting. And that is something that, like, you take a deck of cards and you're trying to sort the cards, you may wonder, oh, well, what's the most efficient way to sort these cards? You know, if I was a computer or just as a person, like, what's the most efficient way? And that's what you're kind of exploring in those classes, is that there's actually a lot of different ways to sort. You can use bubble sort or quick sort or merge sort. And there's all these different sorting algorithms, and you can directly relate that to a deck of cards. So it kind of makes you think, like, sometimes when I'm with a deck of cards, I'm like, oh, is there a more efficient way that I can sort these? And it's just so real and in the real world that I think it's pretty exciting because there's so much that you can learn and discover just looking around. Like, even me putting away my clothes right now, I'm kind of running an algorithm. You know, I'm saying, oh, if I get some pants, that I need to fold them, and you know, there's a special way to fold pants, and maybe there's an optimal way, or maybe I'm just going to do it the fastest way, you know, or the one that takes up the least amount of space. You know, there's all these different considerations. So yeah, it's just interesting to think about. And another thing that I think is really helpful is that if you are taking data structures and algorithms and you're having trouble kind of visualizing these things, and you know, you're like drawing on paper and it just doesn't make sense, one thing that I did, that when I took data structures and algorithms, I'm actually going to grab it because it's right here. Woo, I'm back. Is I actually wrote down on some cards, like I wrote down like 1 and 2 and just like all these different cards of different numbers and everything. And I could just lay them out on the floor and work through the algorithm with these physical objects. And it became so much more interesting. Like, see, I have some other things, like if you're working with linked lists or something, we got the head and the rear of the list and all kinds of stuff going on. I made a little array thing here. But like, it made it so much more fun when I learned data structures to do it that way, and I still have that even though I took that class a couple years ago. So I just really recommend when you're learning these techniques in coding that you think, oh, sorry, you lost me there. Hello. When you're learning those techniques in coding that you think may only be relevant to the computer, I challenge you to think a little bit outside of that and think, how am I using algorithms in my real life? You know, you learn about a stack. Well, think about stacks in your real life. You got your stack of plates in the cupboard, and you know, you're taking off the top plate every time that you want to use a plate. It's a last in, first out method. Or think about a queue at the grocery store when you're checking out. And you know, the first person in the line is the first person out of the line. There's algorithms and data structures everywhere you look in your real life. And I encourage you to go out there and try and find some. You'll be surprised, I think. All right, have a great day, guys. Bye.